Hey, welcome back. So today I will be doing a full-fledged review on the Anastasia Beverly Hills Prism palette. This is what the packaging looks like. I'll show you some up-close shots of this packaging. It is this velvet material that gets very, very dirty. Mine is very, very dirty and I've only had it for like a month now. And it has attracted so many weird pieces of hair, so many dust particles that it's kind of annoying. But the packaging is absolutely beautiful. I love this pyramid. I like that the name is slanted. I just love this packaging with the black and the gold. So this is very, very beautiful. So it also comes in this box. As you can see, it looks identical to the inside. It has all of the shades in the back, all of the ingredients, a little mini description of it, I guess. So the eyeshadows themselves are made in the USA, but the brush inside is made in the People's Republic of China. Anastasia Beverly Hills is cruelty-free. This eyeshadow palette is not completely vegan, as some of the shades do contain animal products. This does have a shelf life of 6 months, which is kind of really weird for an eyeshadow palette, but I can like almost guarantee you that it will be fine after 6 months. If you notice your palette smelling weird, looking weird, feeling weird, then it's time to, chuck it. So you get 9.8 grams or 0.28 ounces of product in total in the entire palette. So you get 0.7 grams and 0.02 ounces per eyeshadow. So this palette retails for $42 for 14 shades. You get 7 matte shades, 4 duochromes, and 3 metallic pigments. This palette is limited edition for the holidays, so if you want this, you need to snatch it up immediately. It will not be permanent like Modern Renaissance or Subculture. Okay, so you do get a brush in the palette, which I just want to talk about briefly. This fluffy side of the brush I find is very scratchy on the lid. It will blend out your eyeshadow, but it does kind of hurt and can irritate your eyes. And the other side of the brush is the best way I've found to apply the shimmer shadows in this palette, or your fingers. So definitely don't throw this out. This part of the brush is the good part. Okay, so I want to go by a shade by shade basis right now so I can give a really in-depth review, which is why I waited so long, that I really wanted to test out every single color multiple times to see what this palette is really like. So I'm going to start from the top shade here. So this shade is Lucid. It is kind of a pale white gold shade. So Lucid does count as a duochrome, and it is kind of a white that shifts to a pale gold. I do find this shade to be a little chunky. It's just a little bit flaky on the eye and on your finger when you're swatching it. It's just not as smooth as some of the other shades, but it is still really, really nice. It has good color payoff. I like to use all of the shimmer shades in here with glitter glue, as I do any other shimmer shade, because I do have hooded eyes and things do tend to transfer, but also I just like my eyeshadows to pop as much as possible. So yes, Lucid is a little bit chunky. It's a little bit less pigmented than some of the other shimmer shades in here, but I really do enjoy it as kind of a inner corner, a brow bone highlight, anything like that. So the next shade is Eden, and if you can see, I have a considerable dent. Like I could see a little divot in Eden, and that's because there is a ton of fallout that comes out of this color. It's kind of a very powdery shadow, but there is a lot of pigment. This is one of the most pigmented shadows in this palette. So Eden is a matte, light orange coral type of shade, but I find that it blends very smoothly as long as you don't overload your brush, and as long as you don't swirl your brush in here, you will be perfect. If you just kind of take it and tap it in, and don't go around in circles multiple times, because you really don't need it, you will be perfectly fine. There'll be a little bit of fallout, but always tap off your brush with this palette because there is quite a bit of fallout along with some intense pigment. So the next shade is Unity, which is just a perfect kind of tan oatmeal shade, which can be perfect for setting the eye from primer. a brow bone highlight if you're darker skinned. Now this shade does have pretty much as much fallout as the last shade, Eden, but they're very, very pigmented, so a little does go a very long way. On lighter skin tone, Unity can even be a transition shade. It's not quite that dark enough for me to use it as a transition shade. Now the one thing this palette does lack for me is a light cream brow bone shade, but that's just for kind of more lighter skin toned people like me. If you're darker skinned, Unity will work beautifully. So next shade is Sphinx, and Sphinx is a nice metallic bronze neutral shade. It's not as orange as some of the other colors here, but it is a nice true neutral brown. Sphinx feels very, very smooth. It's nothing like Lucid over here. It is a lot smoother. There's no chunkiness, and it just glides on the eye. Again, I still do like to use glitter glue with these. That's just personal preference, but you could definitely not use glitter glue. In the demo that I'm about to show you, I do one eye with glitter glue and one eye without. If you could spot which eye it is right now, leave a comment down below. So Sphinx is all around just a really good shade. It's just a typical neutral bronze, very creamy, very nice, blends out easily. So the next shade is Osiris, and Osiris is a little bit tricky to work with. The texture of Osiris is kind of as if you wet an eyeshadow and then kind of packed it in very tightly. But there is a lot of pigment that comes off of Osiris. But it really likes to stick to things. Like if your fingers are kind of, you know, like regular fingers, it's going to stick to your finger. It's going to stick to anything that is sticky. So this shade does especially well with a glitter glue. There is virtually no fallout from Osiris because, just like I said, it has this weird wet pressed pigment type of texture. Osiris is a duochrome. It has a pink reflect. There's lots of pink glitter. It is absolutely beautiful on the eye. Yeah, so Osiris can feel almost a little chunky, just like Lucid, but it's a little bit different, but they're almost, you know, the same texture. So next shade is Sphere. As you can see, it is a bright neon yellow, and because of that, it is just a tiny bit chalky, but this is the smoothest neon shade I have tried thus far. It does have a decent amount of fallout, just like Unity and just like Eden. There's a decent amount of fallout with Sphere, but it really does pop on the eye, especially if you use concealer underneath. If you put a white base, it will pop that much more. And if you want to see looks with every single shade in here, I've used every single shade on my Instagram. You can check through the captions and I list which shades I used, which palette I used, etc. So check that out if you want to see some more looks with this palette. But yes, Sphere is a little bit chalky because of the amount of white that needs to go into this pigment. It is a little bit chalky, but it is still very, very nice, pops on the eye. You know, it's a good neon shade. Next, I want to go on to Obsidian, which is the black in this palette, a beautiful matte black. It does not swatch as nicely as it appears on the eye. It swatches kind of patchy, kind of a little bit dry. The mattes I just talked about, Eden, Unity, not Sphere, but Eden, Unity feel a lot creamier almost. Obsidian is kind of like Sphere in that it's a little bit drier, a little bit chalkier, but not enough that it's difficult to work with and patchy. So Obsidian is really nice for darkening your looks, deepening out anything that you want. It is a kind of black that really stays where you put it. It doesn't really blend away into kind of nothing. I hate when blacks do that because that was, you know, I put it there and now it's gone. Okay, so now I want to go on to one of my favorite shades in this palette. This is Dimension, which is kind of a lighter version of Osiris. So Dimension is kind of a pale lilac silver kind of color with a pink reflect. Dimension is one of the duochromes in this palette. Dimension is very, very smooth. It's not like Osiris in texture at all. Again, I do still apply this with glitter glue, but this shade definitely can do without glitter glue. It's just, you know, much more long wearing with glitter glue. But this shade is absolutely one of my favorites. It swatches beautifully. This shade really reminds me of the Spectra highlight in the Aurora Glow Kit. Actually, let me just get it so I can swatch it right now. Okay, so I have the Aurora Glow Kit right here. Okay, so Dimension and Spectra, which is right here, look very, very similar, but when you swatch them, that is Dimension. No, that's Spectra. That is Spectra, and then this is Dimension. So you can see that Spectra is a little bit more sheer, obviously, because it's a highlighter. It's a little bit more sheer, and it doesn't have as much gray tone to it. But in pan, they do look very, very similar, if you can see. But they are totally different shadows. Okay, so the next shade is Parallel. Parallel is a nice, deep chocolatey brown. It doesn't have as much fallout as Eden or Unity, but it is a little bit drier and a little bit patchier. It's kind of a brown that you really need to kind of work with just a little bit, not enough that it's a, problem, but I do want to say that this is not as smooth or as buttery as Eden or Unity. It is still a beautiful neutral type of brown. It does look very warm in pan, but it's very neutral, that it goes in with the cool tones in this palette, but it also really ties in with the warm tones. Next shade is Pyramid, which is just a very strong yellow gold. It's very smooth. It's a very typical gold, very beautiful. This is one of the metallic ones. This swatches beautifully. It applies on the eye beautifully. This is just a typical, beautiful shimmer shade. Next shade is Throne, and Throne is absolutely beautiful. It is a beautiful duochrome with this kind of pink green reflect. Well, the reflect is like kind of pinky purple, but the actual shadow is green. But it is absolutely beautiful. It is almost the exact same texture as Osiris. Actually, it is the exact same texture. This is kind of that wet pressed pigment kind of texture. This packs a really big punch. Yeah, this is just a very unique, really beautiful shade. I really love green tones, especially during the fall. So this can feel a little chunky, just like Osiris, but it sticks to your finger, just like it'll stick to anything that's sticky. So this shade does really benefit from a glitter glue as well. Okay, so next shade is Saturn, which is just a deeper version of Eden, a little bit less coral and a little bit true orange. It blends beautifully. It's not chalky, it's not patchy, and this is just a beautiful orange shade. It does also have a ton of fallout, so really do tap into these shades. So next shade is Eternal. Eternal is a very beautiful, warm, bronzy shade. This is very smooth. It swatches exactly like Pyramid and applies exactly the same. It's very nice, glides on the eye, doesn't skip, doesn't become patchy. And the last shade is Lure, which is kind of this pale mauve toned shade. And once you're looking at this palette, you might think, oh, this is like out of place, but I think it really gives this palette kind of a balance. You can really do some warm tone looks, and you could really do some cool tone looks with this palette. I think this is a very, very versatile palette. For beginners, I think this would work. You just have to be a little bit careful. So these shades are very, very long lasting. They don't fade away. They really stick on. Make sure to always use a primer. Make sure to always set that primer so everything will blend much better on top of it. So now I'm just going to go on to the swatches of the shadows, and then I'm going to go into the demo of me applying it on my eye. Okay, so I've already primed my eyes with the Milani eyeshadow primer. So now I'm just going to be taking the shade Unity on this e.l.f. I think this is a flawless concealer brush. And I'm just going to be dusting Unity all over my lid to set that primer. Okay, that shade Unity is a little too dark to be a brow bone highlight for me. However, for darker skin tones, it will definitely work out. So I'll just be bringing in one extra shade. This is the Wet n Wild Single Shadow in Creme Brulee, and I'll be using this as a brow bone highlight. But other than that, everything in this look will be from this Prism palette. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in with Lure on this Wet n Wild crease brush from their new limited edition holiday collection. And I'm just going to be applying this all over the crease as my transition shade. You can see these shadows really do blend themselves. You can really tell that these shadows are very powdery. So I really made sure to just tap into Lure and made sure I tap off the excess and then applied that to my eye. Okay, now I'm gonna go in with this Wet n Wild, like this tapered blending type of brush. And I'm going to dip into Parallel and apply that to my outer corner and kind of into the crease, but not as blown out as I put Lure in. Now this shade Parallel is just a little difficult to work with, I find. It doesn't really want to blend as smoothly as some of the other shades. So I really do recommend really starting out slow with this shade and really working your way up, or else you're going to have a really unblended, patchy mess. I'm kind of gonna flick out my outer corner right there. Just blend that in. This is not a palette that you can rush with. Like if you want a very intricate, like smoky type of look, this is not a palette that you can just zoom zoom, blend it in 2 seconds, go. These shades certain shades, the darker shades at least, like to stick to where they've been placed. Like this, you can kind of see that it's kind of just like slowly blending out, but not, you know, too quickly. But if you want to do a look with some of these lighter shades, like super quick, very natural, everyday type of look, you could definitely do it. Okay, now I'm going to go back in with a bit of Lure on that same brush, and then I'm just going to apply it right at the edge to blend out the edges of the brown. Now I'm going to be taking this Wet n Wild pencil brush with Obsidian, and I'm going to be placing it right on the outer corner. I'm going to work very, very slow because I don't want this to be overpowered by the black. Okay, after I've carved out kind of the shape that I want, I'm gonna go back in with that pinched blending brush, and I'm really going to blend out those edges. Okay, going back in with that first initial fluffy brush, and I'm just going to fluff out the edges. Okay, now I'm debating on whether or not I want to put glitter glue on right now, or okay, I'm gonna try one eye without glitter glue just for experimentation's sake. I'm gonna do this eye without glitter glue, and I'll do this with glitter glue just so you guys can see the difference. So I'm gonna take Osiris on my finger. Actually, I'm just gonna take it on my finger a little tiny bit, and I'm going to apply that right in between the black and the other shade that I'm about to use. Oh my god, this is such a beautiful color. Like, it is so pretty. So you can see we have Osiris on the center of my lid right now. And then I'm gonna go in with my pointer finger into Dimension. And I'm going to be applying that to the inner third of my lid. Oh my god, do you see that? The one problem with applying shadows with your hand is kind of just like, well, how am I supposed to blend it now? I just kind of alternate between the two fingers and kind of rub and tap in the line of demarcation. and just kind of hope for the best. Okay, so that is the eye without glitter glue. Before I move on to the other eye, I'm just going to take whatever's left on this brush to just help blend out any edges and such. And then I'm going to be applying glitter glue right all over my lid. I'm going to go back in with that Osiris shade right, I want you guys to see this, right there. Do you see how it's popping so much more now? Now I'm just going to take a Lucid. Oh my god, see the difference? I'm just going to take my brow bone shade that I said I was going to use in the beginning. I'm just going to apply that right now so my eyeshadow doesn't go up so damn high. And just help blend that out. I am using this scratchy side of the brush that comes with the palette, just so you guys can see that, you know, it does work. It's just, it's very scratchy. I'm gonna go in and blend out. Always gotta, you know, go back in and blend. Okay, I'm gonna come back after doing the rest of my face to finish up the eyes so you can see what the finished product looks like. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is gonna finish up the lower lash line. So I'm gonna take that same Allure color on that blending brush and I'm going to just run it really haphazardly underneath my eye. Going back in with that pinched blender brush, I'm gonna go back into Parallel and I'm going to run that on my lower lash line. Except I'm gonna go much tighter on the eye now and I'm gonna really make sure to start blending this. Okay, now going back in with that pencil brush and Obsidian, I'm gonna tap it in really lightly and I'm going to really gently just run that on my lower lash line. Okay, now just because I can, and I wanted to only use shadows from this palette, I'm going to be taking Lucid on my pinky finger and I'm just going to be applying that shade right in that inner corner. There you go. I'm going to be finishing up the rest of my face and then I'm going to come back on camera. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the swatches and the demo of me applying this eyeshadow palette. If you want to know anything that's on my face right now, check the description box below. I'll link everything and anything that is on my face right now. If you want to know my Instagram handle, it's also down below, so please check it out and maybe give me a follow, maybe. If you enjoyed this review video, please subscribe, like, and comment, and share this video. It would mean a ton to me as a smaller creator. And thanks for watching. Bye.